Look at that. Isn't that a great layout? You son of a gun!
This campaign is no good.
No good!
Darren and Larry, the original Mad Men on Bewitched.
Hello, I'm John Mallison. Welcome to Connect with Me, live on the showroom floor at Ventura TV. Comcast 187 today and 43.6. Hey, we've got a very interesting show. We're going to talk about Reform Fresno Unified, and we'll also talk to an attorney. They want to split that district in half. There's a grassroots effort now to try to do that. Your phone calls are encouraged, 265-4331. Back in a moment on Connect with Me. As mentioned, a grassroots effort now to try to get this thing on the ballot. It's called Reform Fresno Unified. That's a group that's trying to collect about 19,000 signatures. They're trying to get the measure, a measure, on the ballot in November. They're taking it to the voters, and they want the voters to decide whether or not Fresno Unified School District should be split in half or not. They say the school district is way, way too big. It's the fourth largest in the entire state of California. They say that things are going downhill, talking about test scores, API scores, reading and math, truancy, and expulsions. They're up. And so let's go to the videotape. Reform Fresno Unified also put this tape together. It's on YouTube if you want to go look at it. They say that Bullard High School went from being one of the best in California to one of the worst, and they say they have the data to back it up. The groups claim that Bullard is overcrowded, 2,600 students, class sizes are way too high, there are fights on campus, drug use, there's gang presence, using the bathrooms can be dangerous, and they say district officials, which include Superintendent Michael Hansen and school board members, are not doing what they're supposed to do. They're ignoring the problems, and they are failing to recognize or admit that there was a problem in the first place. And they claim the Bullard feeder system, Tenaya, Wawona, Gibson, Manock, Faulkner, they have no GATE programs for highly intelligent students. Those are students that have high IQs. Live in our studio right now is Chuck Manock. On your left, he is an attorney, and John Trenberth. He is with Reform Fresno Unified. We'll talk to both of them, and your phone calls are included, 265-4331. This is a highly contentious issue right now, of course. It is Reform Fresno Unified versus the Fresno Unified School District. Should this district, the fourth largest in the entire state of California, be split in two? It's not a new issue. It's been talked about for years and years, maybe the better part of a decade. In fact, Fresno County Superintendent, the former that is, Pete Mijas, brought this up many years ago, more than a decade ago. Should it happen? We'll hear from you, and we'll hear from our two guests on Connect with Me in just a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean Dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
And welcome back to the program. And I must say, I cannot go without saying that I contacted Susan Badee. She is from Fresno Unified. She's like the public information officer. I talked to her about getting the superintendent on this program, of course. I talked to her about getting Ruthie Quinto on this program. She's the assistant superintendent. They are both out of town. Susan Badee told me that she would ask both of them when they come back from their trips if they would appear on this program at some point, maybe sometime in April. So we're hearing that she is telling us anyway that she's going to call us back or call me back to let me know one way or the other. I didn't want you to think that this was a totally one-sided program, because you know what? We would entertain anybody from Fresno Unified to come on here and represent their side of the story. Meantime, We have Chuck Manock here. How are you, Chuck?
Good, very
to see
good.
you.
Thanks for having us.
You're an attorney. And John Trenberth, you
Hi,
are
John.
from Reform Fresno Unified.
That's correct.
Okay, now let's get to one thing at a time, okay, because there's a lot of ground to cover. First of all, why is it a good idea to split the district in half, in your opinion?
Well, the biggest reason is the scope of the issues that they face each and every day, that teachers face, administrators face, and you know, our intent is not to discredit or point fingers at current administrations. You know, we have the utmost respect for the teachers and administrators and what they endure each and every day.
Okay, but what's the
point,
problem?
The point is here with Fresno Unified is that their scope is too big. It means the issues they face with a school district that big.
Issues like?
It could be overcrowding. It could be academic. It could
truancy.
be truancy. It could be, you know, let's stay on the academics for a point here. Is that in the environment of the schools? So if you take a much more focused approach, break it in half, smaller is better, so to speak. Those issues and problems can be dealt with more effectively and get results in a shorter period of time than trying to deal with the whole district the
I'll
way
get
it's
to you in a second,
outlined.
Chuck, but I want to ask a couple of questions about Reform Fresno Unified. What is this group? How would you describe it?
It's basically a grassroots group that is put together, basically myself, who comes from a business community. I have a lot of employees I hire from Fresno. I'm very concerned about the academic.
And your mission statement is?
Is basically positive reform. Let's improve our schools. Henceforth, you improve your overall environment.
And are you basically getting this grassroots effort together to try to put this measure on the ballot to take it to the voters in November?
That's one of the points.
You're going to do it?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we want to do.
Okay.
The other
You need
things.
19,000 signatures, from my understanding.
You bet. You need 19,000.
You think you'll get them?
It's, you know, nothing's impossible, but it is a task to achieve.
All right, let's get to Chuck here for a second. Now, you were at the school board meeting last week. You spoke. Now, what did the superintendent have to tell you, and what was the outcome of that?
Well, the purpose behind it was to talk about the situation at Bullard High School and its feeder schools. Bullard is one of those areas and one of those high schools that's suffering the most, in my opinion, in regards to where they are and what their vision is. So we had some very basic things to talk to the district about. Chief among them were promises made to Bullard and the Bullard community prior to Measure Q.
We'll get into that, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it helps to understand that in terms of context. In any case, after we talked about that, Superintendent Hanson, to his credit, did say that he would work with us. At the end of the day, he said that he would work with us.
And did he admit he made those promises at some point?
Yeah, it was very difficult to not admit that promises were made, as we had documents that are found on the website, Fresno Unified website, which actually say Bullard Regional Pilot Program. There were letters from the principal, etc. So there was no issue there.
We'll get into the specifics of that in just a bit here, but I want to put up on the screen just for a minute the Bullard test scores. And this is an issue that is very contentious right now. Of course, Reform Fresno Unified says that Bullard scored in the 90th percentile for similar schools statewide in 2000-2005. Now Bullard ranks among the bottom 10th percentile. Where'd you get those numbers there, John?
Those came right from the posted on the internet. I mean, we got that
Department
data
of Education?
right.
Sacramento?
You can get it right from the internet. You can get those scores.
Okay,
And
now, let me address that.
Go ahead.
What we looked at, different from what Fresno Unified will tell you to look at, what we looked at were schools that were similarly situated, which the Department of Education does. So, for example, in Bullard, what we looked at was 10 years ago, for example, they were competitive, if not in the top 3, with those high schools near and around this area, which would include the Clovis schools.
And they were competing statewide.
Absolutely, and they were 90th percentile. It was one of the best in the state. Now, when you look at that same bellwether, when you look at that same stat, now we are dropping to the lowest, 10th percentile. Now, our problem, one of the problems we have with Fresno Unified is Fresno Unified will say, well, your test scores are improving or staying the same. They are within the Fresno Unified School District, but not statewide.
Okay, so they dispute those numbers.
They dispute those numbers only in regards to the fact that they say that the test scores for Bullard are staying at or relatively the same
but they
within Fresno Unified.
But they don't dispute the numbers in terms of statewide, right?
They can't.
They can't
yeah.
because it's on the state website,
Right.
the California Department of Education
Right.
website. Okay, let's get to the Bullard class size issue right now because that's part of the problem what they are saying over there. Here's what Fresno Unified district officials are saying. They say the average class size is about 33 students per class. They also say that 7 of 470 classes had more than 40. All right, Reform Fresno Unified says, no, wait a minute. Class sizes are way bigger than that. You can see the numbers up on the screen. They say that 43 classes are at the overload mode right now. That means 37 students or more, and obviously it goes beyond 40. So, guys, who's right here?
Well, again, I'm an attorney. You can look at facts any which way you want. You can
twist the numbers any way.
You can twist the numbers. You can look at stats any which way you want. But let me just say this, okay? Whether it's Reform Fresno or a parent from Bullard, we're parents.
Right.
We know how to look up what's happening in our own kids' classes. We know when we talk to the teachers. We know what overcrowding is.
Well, why not just say, John? Why doesn't somebody just go over to Bullard High School, walk into each classroom, and count the students? We'll have an accurate figure.
Well, that could be done. I mean, when I first heard
there's
this,
no disputing that.
Yeah, when I first heard this, I was, I wanted to find out myself.
Right.
So I went over there for about an hour one day, and I felt like I was at Chicago O'Hare Airport on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I mean, it's crowded, and it's not.
Right.
It's the environment that you're putting these kids in, and that's concerning. Not only the teachers. I mean, how are they expect to perform? So
let's take a quick break here. Our phone number here is 265-4331. If you want to chip in with your comments and concerns, if you are a parent out there and your son or daughter, they go to Bullard, you have a niece or a family member. We're talking with Chuck Manock and John Trenberth. We're back in just a moment.
Weeknights on MeTV. Who loves you, baby?
You shouldn't ask.
It's Kojak.
Well, it sounds like music to my ears.
On MeTV.
Look at me.
Why do we love him?
Maybe it's the way I comb my hair.
Or maybe it's his trusty right-hand man.
More bite? Crocker!
Kojak! Well, I just wanted to hear how it sounded.
Telly Savalas is Kojak.
Story of my life, baby.
Weeknights at 12:30, 11:30 Central on MeTV.
Who loves you?
A grassroots effort to try to split up Fresno Unified in two, Reform Fresno Unified. We got a member here, John Trenberth, and he says that the school district is too big. They're going to try to get the signatures, put this thing on the ballot in November, and let the voters decide. Is it too big? Is it gaining too much notoriety for its size and really not enough competence within the district in trying to get those test scores up? Anyway, Chuck Manock is here. He's an attorney. I want to go to the Bullard fighting. We saw the video off of YouTube, which you guys produced. We didn't produce that video. That's your video that you got up on YouTube. Great stuff, great video. But when you talk about overcrowding, now you're talking about the possibility of some violence on campus. Here it is. Bullard fighting. Reform Fresno Unified says 28 students injured back in 2010, 2011. 82 students were injured in 2012. How did you come to that conclusion? Where'd you get those numbers?
They came right from Bullard, from principal on down. And
is the district, are they disputing those numbers?
No, not to my
Michael
knowledge.
Hansen
They're
is not
not
disputing
They're not
that.
disputing them.
Okay.
They may
recognize
be,
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the point here is, again, going back to safety and environment.
Is that because of overcrowding?
Part of it is. I mean,
Really?
Sure, you're going to have lots of factors involved in fighting. It could be a combination of lots of things. But again, if it's, overcrowding is an issue. When you have that, you're going to bound to have other elements.
What's your take on it, Chuck?
Well, I think that overcrowding is part of it. The transfer program within Fresno Unified is part of it. I think that there are a lot of students within the system, and this isn't just Bullard, who don't want to be there and cause problems.
Yeah.
And they deal drugs, they fight, etc. It's not solely because of kids being transferred
there.
there.
Back that up, that they are doing drugs. There's a gang presence there. That they're fighting. We saw the video. Obviously, that's
well,
an obvious tip.
There
that
probably
something's going
is,
on.
but that's not the big factor of Reform Fresno.
What's the big factor?
Well, the thing is...
What's the X factor, in other words?
The X factor is that, you know, Bullard has, each pyramid has their own issues. And some of them may be similar, some of them may differentiate.
Right. Edison may have different issues than Bullard, is what you're saying.
For example, Roosevelt last night, very encouraging comments from folks. And, you know, we hear positive comments as far as, and negative comments. So we're not just looking for negative comments.
I want to take a phone call here. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. How are you?
Good morning. Making Fresno Unified, recognizing it's the 4th largest school district in the state, that makes it one of the largest in the nation. And Bullard's overcrowding situation, Clovis School District has managed a similar situation by breaking up, adding an additional high school campus. Is this something that's under consideration? That's one part. And my second part is, I'm a Gibson parent, and I have to tell you that there was gate testing performed earlier this year. It's only been a few weeks ago.
At Gibson?
It was very, very quiet. It was kept under wraps. I don't approve of the method. However, I do have to dispute that there was no gate testing. There was, in fact, gate testing, but you really had to know about it. It was kind of done on the fly. I kind of resent that a little bit. But the primary thrust of my comment was, are you advocating the addition of a second campus for the overflow for the Bullard area? Thank you.
I'll address that.
Yeah. So there was, I mean, this caller, this young man here who's got apparently a child over at Gibson, he says there was gate testing, and Gibson is one of the feeder schools into Bullard.
Gate testing is different than an implementation of a gate program throughout the Bullard district and pyramid of Bullard.
So just because they had a gate test there doesn't mean they have a gate program.
Well, no, they don't have a gate program there, not at all. And part of what we were talking about in terms of the Bullard Regional Pilot Program, which was put together by Michael Hansen, was a promise and part of the program, which was there's going to be gate throughout the entire district, Bullard district, which then would be replicated in other parts of Fresno, the other schools. It wouldn't be limited to Manchester Gate. It wouldn't be limited to Edison Computech. So I have no doubt that there was gate testing.
They just didn't want to publicize it.
Well, not only that, but my point is that doesn't necessarily, nor does it even come close to saying we now have a gate program not only at Gibson, which they don't, but also throughout the entire school.
Yeah,
the
now
entire
Central
school district.
Unified, they have a gate program.
Yes.
I know, because my kids are in gate.
Right, and so does Clovis.
So...
And see, our
does
point...
Does Sanger have a...
They do.
They do.
My point is when we discussed with Michael Hansen prior to Measure Q what was needed in the Bullard area, one of the biggest linchpins was a gate program throughout Bullard district, the pyramid.
Yeah. Before we go to break, I want to put this graphic up. It's called Reform Fresno Unified, claiming that Superintendent Michael Hansen made all sorts of promises. Here are the promises that he made: to launch the Bullard Regional Pilot Program, to implement a dress code, implement the working law magnet, sports medicine magnet, gate classes, a gate feeder program, those feeder schools, Tenaya, Wawona, Gibson, Manock, and Faulkner. And also, they wanted $50 million in new facilities. All right, those promises came because, and you have to fit in Measure Q into this thing. Explain how Measure Q fits into all these promises that Michael Hansen made for all of these improvements at the Bullard feeder system and Bullard High School.
Well, it really starts with Measure K and how those dollars were being spent and when they were being spent.
Explain that so our viewers know.
Exactly. Measure K, which was the prior bond measure, there was a tremendous amount of dollars that were put out and were being spent. We were at the last of the line, the Bullard facilities. The Bullard facilities have not been updated for years and years and years. Okay, so the school district recognized and did a master plan for Bullard, which said we have to spend the Measure Q dollars on Bullard. Now, part of what we talked to Mr. Hansen about prior to Measure Q was if we support this Measure Q.
And Measure Q was?
Measure Q was a bond measure.
Right.
That was
tax dollars.
Tax dollars.
For improvements to Fresno Unified.
Absolutely.
And you wanted part of that money for Bullard.
Of course. And the reason that we did was because when you do a study, say a 20-year study, over how much and where the dollars were coming from, the tax base that pays for those bond measures comes from Northwest Fresno. The dollars that have been spent in the past have been spent on other high schools. So what Bullard was saying was, now as we get to this bond, we need to have our facilities updated, modernized.
Hansen agreed to it,
of course, and as did the board.
So you're also claiming that Hansen reneged on the promise.
Let me address that. Let me address that, because this is crucial here, and I was involved in some of the negotiations here. No, I won't say that. We don't say that necessarily. What we say is that the dollars are slow in coming. We're saying, when we say,
he didn't renege on the promise then.
Well, with regard to the monies from the bond measure of Measure Q, it still remains to be seen where that is, because they have not voted on that yet.
At Bullard?
No, there's not.
Okay.
That was another
program
issue.
At Bullard?
No, there's not.
Okay, then he's reneged
on those promises. Yes,
right.
But
okay.
Within each promise is a fairly involved analysis. The bond measure is one thing. The uniforms, absolutely, they reneged. Now, what they'll tell you is that the uniforms we were asking for was illegal. They're not. The uniforms that we're talking about have to do with Long Beach, which has an opt-out program. It says that parents can say, we don't want that. Clovis also has uniform. We used to have uniforms at Tenaya. They have uniforms at Cooper. We're saying we need them in our district.
Right. You know what? We're going to pick up on this after the break. 265-4331. We're talking about Reform Fresno Unified. We're also talking to Chuck Manock. He's an attorney involved in all of these negotiations with the district. He knows this issue inside out. We're back on Connect with Me in just a moment.
Is taking care of laundry taking too much of your time? Have you become a missing mom? With a new, fast, efficient washer and dryer from Ventura TV Video Appliance, you'll spend more of your day the way you want.
This Amana Super Capacity Washer Dryer Pair is now just $6.99, and this heavy-duty Maytag Super Capacity Washer Dryer Pair is only $8.99.
Don't spend your life on laundry. Upgrade today at Ventura TV Video Appliance and save.
We've got a call right off the bat here. Let's see who it is. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me this morning. How are you?
Yes, good morning. I watch you every morning.
Good.
I wanted to say, as far as Fresno Unified is concerned with some Bullard, I think it would be a good idea if they did have uniforms, because these kids are walking around with their underwear showing, and that's not. The ones that do wear underwear. And I think that if they had a uniform, when I was going to school, we did, so I don't understand why they shouldn't have. And as far as some of the funds that were spent, it's true that I'm sure that they were spent on other things versus what it was honestly meant for. But with the uniforms, I have to go with that 100%.
Okay.
Because it's just really terrible looking at the way that these kids go to school.
Yeah, you don't want to see kids' underwear when
No,
they're
and not
walking
only
into
that,
class.
if they had a better suggestion as far as the kids' dress, that would also change their mind of thought.
Yeah.
If you look like $1 million, that's what you feel like. If you look like 10 cents, you'll feel like that. And I thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you, ma'am, for watching.
Thank you.
All right, a loyal viewer and some very insightful comments and very perceptive, obviously. John, I want to get back to the gate classes. We had a caller earlier call in and say, hey, they did gate testing at Gibson.
Right.
Okay, you want to clarify something on that?
The thing is, with the gate testing, they were doing gate testing, I'm sure. The reason is that if those kids do qualify, then they would be sent to Manchester. The point that the Bullard Pyramid wants is they want their own gate program within the Bullard Pyramid, not sending kids from the Bullard Pyramid to another area. They want to. There's enough population, enough qualified gate kids to maintain
so you're saying
their own.
If there's a gate kid in Northwest Fresno, why are you going to send him to Southwest Fresno for a gate program?
Exactly.
Okay, that's the point.
That's the point.
That's it in a nutshell. Let's take a call. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I was just watching the TV about kids bagging pants and all that. You know, I remember when I was in school, I never wear bagging pants like that, and I think the school should get more concerned about kids' clothing. They should like get real strict on it. But as soon as the teacher needs to think about it, so I think everybody should wear uniforms. You know, like some people agreed or not agreed. But
Well, you're not going to get a dispute from our two guests today. I appreciate the phone call, and your viewership is very important. Thanks for being a loyal viewer. I appreciate it.
Sure, thank you.
All right, another insightful phone call here. I want to get back to last week's meeting at the school board. Obviously, you were the main speaker. Did Michael Hansen, the superintendent, for the most part, admit that he did renege on a promise, and is he willing to work with you now? Quickly.
Well, yes. I mean, there was no dispute as to what we had talked about. There was no dispute as to the Bullard Regional Pilot Program, that it existed. And Michael Hansen said that they were moving forward. He said they had difficulties with the GATE program, and he reached out at the end of the meeting and said he would talk with us. He would meet with us. And he and I have been trading phone calls trying to get there.
Okay, quickly, I want to put some more graphics up on the screen before we run out of time. I want to put up the API test scores. Here it is. Now, this comes from the Department of Education. Fresno Unified, 724. Look who's better, Sanger and Central Unified, two smaller districts. How about the API scores as far as Latinos are concerned? Again, Fresno at 708. Who's better? Sanger and Central, two smaller school districts. How about API scores for African Americans? Fresno Unified in at 664. Again, two smaller districts, Sanger and Central, come out on top. They are better. So those come from the Department of Education, those numbers. Yeah, I guess you can't dispute them.
No, you can't dispute them. And Sanger in particular is one that is very telling, because it is very close to our own socioeconomic breakdown, which includes the breakdown at Bullard. You know, people in this town tend to have a sense that, well, there's one type of person on one end of town and the other. That's not true.
Right.
We're changing.
Right.
And so as we're changing, we have to address these things. Sanger, for example, has been able to perform, and I believe, and many experts believe, it's because of its size.
So another argument for a smaller school district, splitting it in half? Smaller school districts are doing better according to those stats.
Yeah, and you know, the benchmark for academics is there. It's real.
Yeah.
And the teachers and administrators are accountable to that. Yeah. But the point behind that, making it different, is that you got to improve the environment. Right. Whether it's the uniforms, the overall environment. If you want your employees to succeed at being the best at what they do, you have to make sure the environment is proficient. And right now, these teachers, and I feel their environment is hurting them.
John, check out this very telling graphic here. We're going to put one more up on the screen before we go. It's very interesting. This comes from the National Assessment of Education Program Biannual Report. According to NAEP, an article written by John Fensterwald, in both reading and math, Fresno ranked among the lowest in the nation out of 21 urban school districts. They're right in there with LA, Washington, D.C., Cleveland, Milwaukee, and Detroit. My goodness. So they're at the bottom according to this report. It's a biannual report. Okay. Are you buying this?
It's appalling to me, but let's put it in perspective for the people of Fresno.
Okay.
The world is changing from an economic standpoint. You know, I deal with a global basis, a global supply base, global customer base. And these jobs are coming back to this country. 50% of them may be robotics, but they're coming back to this country. And we have to make Fresno competitive in the business environment to attract companies, because the first thing companies look for is their educational system and how proficient and can they get qualified workers.
All right. President Obama, John Boehner coming together to hash out these economic issues on a smaller scale. You and Michael Hansen coming together to fix the problems at Fresno Unified. Is that going to happen? Is this the Obama / Boehner of Fresno?
Yeah, I want to stay away from that. I can't imagine which one I would be.
Yeah. Come on.
But no.
Are you guys going to hash this out? We got 30 seconds.
I'm optimistic that we are going to work towards a better goal. It is clear to me that Fresno Unified wants to get better. The problem is the process and the size. Okay, so that's what it comes down to. I think it's too big.
So are you Boehner or Obama? You don't know?
I'll take a Boehner.
Okay. So go ahead, quick. We got it.
Basically, the size is we don't have the time. We got to get measurable results in a faster amount of time. The problem is with being it so big, it takes too long to get those results.
We're going to get cut off. John, thank you very much. Come back again. Chuck, always good to see you. Thanks for your help on this, putting this program together. He was very instrumental. I appreciate that. Hey, back on Monday with Kopi Soteropoulos of KMPH. Have a great weekend. I hope Superintendent Hansen agrees to come on this program.
Do you like me?
Just like me.
Like Me TV Fresno on Facebook. Get the latest news, interact with others, watch videos, become a fan of me. Exclusively brought to you by Ventura TV.